All right, so look, welcome everybody to week 4. This is the last webinar, and I want to go over the exam review before we kickstart, or the exam format before we kickstart the session, and also just to highlight to you not to get bogged down with the scenario for the exam per se, and I'll go through the idea behind the scenario and everything, and we'll get on top of that of why I formatted it like that, and then my summary that will be provided during the exam review week to a possible solution and what I would do in that scenario. So again, the exam is really not related to the scenario per se, so don't get bogged down. A few people have already posed some questions about groups and things like that, and we will address any feedback like that. We will address. Yes, it is trial and error with so many people. We've had over 2,200 enrol. You automatically get put into groups to manage such a large group, and that was my suggestion, because on past experience, it's better with a small group all contributing. Now, some groups will have phenomenal contributors. I think I said in my first week, when I did my Masters in National Security online, we had people on our weekly forum submitting 2,000 words, for a discussion topic. And they really embraced it, and they had the time to do it and all that. That's fantastic, and that's great, and that's what I love about it, and we all learn from each other. And then you'll get some groups that might just have people that are extremely busy in their day-to-day lives, mixed skill sets. Again, this is open to everybody. So you will have some IT security managers in here. You'll have probably some CSOs, or in fact, I know a couple of CSOs that are in the groups, and you'll have various people of different levels. So you just have to work with that. And some groups might just have 3 or 4 people that are contributing, and that is hard. And then maybe we'll look at options in the future to be able to move across groups or whatever. But we will learn and take your feedback as we move along. So as we get going, and also some people have commented that other people have posted, cut and pasted their material and put it into their groups. Look, that happens. That's just blatant plagiarism. However, you know that you've contributed. You know that you've given an excellent answer. You should be happy with that. And if those people want to do that, that's just going to happen everywhere, and it's sad. And because this is not a full degree type certificate, it's very hard to police plagiarism. But it is noted, and thank you for that. So the exam will go up on the 12th of April and close on the 19th of April at 11:59 Australian Eastern Standard Time. So it'll go up on the 12th. You can start it whenever you like, up until the 19th. So you've got 7 whole days to attempt it. You have 1 hour to do it, and we'll go through that shortly. But don't do it at 10:30 on the 19th of April. Because if your power goes out or whatever else, it's just an issue. So try and do it during the week sometime. It's open book, so it's fairly straightforward. To get the certificate, you must post in the forums. Now, posting, because people are at different levels, and this is what I love about this course, right? Because everyone's at a different level. You're going to have some people that are giving phenomenal answers, and they have, and it's, I'm just gobsmacked at the detail that some people have gone through, and you've got to look at this in a sense of there are CSOs in these groups. I know that for a fact. There are senior managers in these groups. That's why I love these courses, because those people that are really going the extra yard, that really know their material, will get noticed, and probably are getting noticed by these decision makers. So it's a great networking opportunity, and it is just amazing what people are doing. So you must post in the forums. But in saying that, don't panic if you've only just complimented somebody and said, I never thought about that, or yes, that is fantastic that you've done a link diagram or whatever, because you've learnt from that and you've commented. It shows me that you've read other people, what they've posted, and by complimenting on their efforts, you're reinforcing to those people that have committed the effort that they've done a good job, but you've learnt from it. You learn that it's great to, in a convoluted scenario like this, to break it down into chunks and to possibly do an ad hoc chart to see where everybody in the situation is sitting, and go through it that way. So again, just make sure you post in the forums, and that can be 2 or 3 sentences, and that is sufficient. All right. Complete the quizzes that are up there each week, and there's another one going up for session 4 shortly in the next 24 hours. Complete each week's quizzes. They're self-assessment quizzes. You can do them as often as you like. And then sit the final exam during the exam period, right? So sit the final exam is the one that is critical. So to tick the boxes, complete the weekly forums, right? In any means or manner, just log in, compliment, contribute, share your expertise, which is fantastic for those that are doing that. Remember, I am the legal background, and the computer science people in this class and the computer IT gurus, I am learning a lot from your contributions, and hopefully you are too. And do the final exam. Homework submission can be done by the 19th of April, right? Again, we don't recommend you leave it until the last minute. So that's the forums. So you have till the 19th of April to post in the forums, okay? And you must complete the homework to be able to sit the exam. So the exam questions are based around the homework and generally the PowerPoint slides or the PDF that you see in relation to the PowerPoint slides. It is 40 multiple choice, and within that multiple choice there are a few true and false questions, and it's 1 hour to complete it. Again, open book. So you can have all the slides there, and go through it like that. You only get one chance to sit it, so I'll reinforce that. You only get one chance to sit it, and a reminder email will be sent out. So we'll be sending you a reminder email that you have the exam to do. Any technical details, email shortcourses@itmasters.edu.au as soon as possible. And this, of course, presentation will be up on the system as well. So if you have any issues, go to week 4, look for the week 4 slides and notes. I'm going to replace the ones that are there now with this. This is an extra slide within it, and this will be up by tomorrow morning. And this you can refer to week 4's, and at the front here you'll see these notes. And for information on it, you can also read How Do I Qualify for a Certificate? Link in the short course website. So you get a lovely certificate for completing this course by A, just completing the discussion forums each week, B, sitting the exam and passing it by 50%, and then you'll be able to qualify for a certificate in applying law to emerging cyber dangers. Guy's going to be going over this quickly at the end. I'll be hosting a short webinar at the end of this because it's the last one. It's basically a couple of questions have been raised in the discussion forum about compelling people to reveal encryption codes in Australia, and we'll quickly touch on that. And also I want to highlight about what I'm going to do with the scenario at the completion of this week. So over the weekend, what I'll be doing, we'll go over this in the blab, but of those that can't make the blab, I'll be going over, basically, I'll be providing what I would have done in this situation, okay? Don't get bogged down with you have to solve the crime. Yes, it is good to try and look at what has happened, and everyone's sharing some fantastic material. The whole purpose of the course is to show you that to get a prosecution, what is packaged up, right, for investigators, albeit the federal police here in Australia, albeit digital forensic experts, or if you refer it to ACORN and what they do with it. So it's a matter of, this course was designed to make sure that you are virtually the expert witnesses in the field that you're working in. Okay, there's so many people working in this industry and they have an attack on their workplace, but they really don't know how to preserve the evidence. The link we're going to go through tonight from the DPP, the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions, in their brief preparation is for Commonwealth agencies referring material to them. I see that as a benchmark, right? A benchmark for you in private sector, that if you tick the boxes and set up a whole set of procedures within your workplace based on their requirements for Commonwealth agencies to refer matters to them for prosecution, you're making it a lot easier if the AFP come to you to investigate or digital forensic experts take over the matter. By packaging up everything, you're looking far more professional, but remember, you must seek legal advice because you don't want to contaminate any evidence. So you have to be experts in your field in preserving the evidence, and by going through the guide from the DPP, you will see what they require, which will make it a lot easier. Now, there's a lot of material in there, and we're just going to fly through it this evening, but the link is there. And once you've got the link in your own time, you can refer to it to say, okay, this is what a brief of evidence is. And in a nutshell, it's telling the story, all right? It's providing the evidence to the story. So as we move in now to week 4, Guy, was there any questions that have just popped up while I about to start week 4?
Yeah, there's one. Are you able to tell us if the exam questions are of a similar sort of difficulty to the short quiz questions each week, which we've been doing?
Look,
or are they more in depth?
No, they're more designed towards the PowerPoint slides, and there's going to be more of multiple choice. I think there's only about 5 true or false, and the rest are multiple choice. Again, it has to be automated because there's 2,200 participants. So if you've done the work, participated in reviewed all the slides, you should be fine. Know what the links are about to an extent. There's a lot of material I've put on there. So if you know what the links are about, in case you do need to quickly go back to a link, I would have 2 screens open or half screen sharing with the exam in one half and the material on the other half, and you should be fine.
Great.
All right.
And that's right, Stuart did also note that the short quiz each week is a requirement for the certificate. You won't be able to even access the exam without having done all of those.
Yeah,
so
and only 5
consideration.
Only 5 questions each week, so they're not cumbersome. It's just get you in the mode of doing an online quiz per se. All right, so no other questions there then, Guy?
No, good to go. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. All right, week 4. The content basically is referring the matter to the federal police, and there's international people here, which is fantastic. I love this course because there's international people as well. So it's referring the matter to your local agency that does investigate this type of material. So don't get me wrong when I keep referring to the AFP. It can be to whatever investigation agency in your jurisdiction, or digital forensics company, investigations, etc., that may take it on if the local law enforcement agencies don't. And a lot of companies go that way. Presenting evidence in accordance with Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecution guidelines. Again, I love this guideline because if you prepare the material for your digital forensics company based on this, you are really showing that company that, you know, you can package material up for prosecution. Of course, they're going to do it their way and they're going to have their systems and processes. And it's all about, remember, and this is a bit of a hint for the exam, it's all about systems and processes. all right? You must have those in place. If you haven't got something in place for something that one day that will happen, this is a good start for you to look at. And again, scenario information feed. Well, the scenario is virtually at an end per se. You're focusing on the exam now, but you will see at the end of this course, when I do my basic summary of it all, of where it's going. And again, I pat you on the back for some of the contributions, which have been phenomenal. So the application to a cyber incident, you want to prepare a referral to the AFP or investigating agency. And I think when we go through the steps, when I have my final submission that you can all look at and review, you will see how it's a step-by-step process to refer it to an agency. You want an agency to pick this up and run with it and prosecute the offenders. And hopefully you will gain an appreciation from this course, especially with the mutual assistance legislation through the Attorney General's Department and extradition, that what is required to get that evidence. So the more you know about that, the better you are placed to have the agencies take on your investigation. And again, we're going to explain what a brief of evidence is and contribute to a forum post and things like that. So please keep contributing. The general forum discussion is fantastic, and some people are raising some really good material. So basically, you really need to start with an investigation plan. Even though you might not be an investigator, you need to have the round table as soon as something happens, and you need to look at, okay, what do we need to package the material to present it to investigators? And it's a matter of systems and processes, okay? It's a matter of systems and processes. Before you commence to establish that an offence may have taken place, as you have in this course, create a checklist first. So you need to have all this in place before that you establish an offence has taken place. I would really start setting up some guidelines within the workplace of what to do, because it's not a matter of, if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when, if you haven't been hit first already by some form of cyber attack. So analysis, you need to objectively look at all the evidence that you have, review the applicable legislation, and establish if a Commonwealth or state crime or a crime in your country has committed. And I'll go through this shortly, and review the CDPP brief preparation guidelines as I'll show you. You need to look at, as I said before, there's key things I raised in this course over time. Is the material you have relevant? Okay, is it relevant to what has taken place? And we'll look back at the refrigerator. You'll get a lot of red herrings in your investigation or in your analysis, of the material, because really you're only providing the investigators with information, okay? Yes, I would provide, you'll see in my summary, information about the refrigerator being connected to the network. However, was that a cause of any of the situations that took place? And you are best placed, being IT, to establish, is that the endpoint that the attack took place? So again, you need to provide the material to the investigators, but make sure you prioritise to what is relevant and what is critical, but also make a note of what to inform them of, because what you might think is not relevant, they will think it is. So yes, on the face of it, the Internet of Things and the refrigerator being attached is relevant per se, but just make a note of it. There was no evidence at this stage that that was the cause of the end node being the vulnerable point. Okay, so the AFP, basically, Australian Federal Police, is jurisdiction to investigate Commonwealth crimes, sometimes called federal crimes, and that's the telecommunications offences that we highlighted and various other computer crime offences, and also that crimes that take place in the ACT, so Australian Capital Territory. So they are the uniformed police in the capital of Australia. So the FBI, for instance, are very similar. They have a uniform presence, just protecting their assets, their building, etc., but they don't investigate state offences within Washington, DC. That's the Capitol Police. But the AFP are unique in the sense that they have federal agents for federal crimes, and they have uniform branch that provide like a state police type policing role, community policing role in the ACT. So the Commonwealth crimes are crimes that fall within the law-making responsibilities of the Australian government, as we know, sometimes called the federal government. State and territory crimes are crimes that fall within the law-making responsibility of state and territory governments. Knowing which crimes are Commonwealth and which are not can be confusing and complex. So make sure you look at the legislation in relation to computer crime and see where does it fall within your country. All right, where does it fall in all the different jurisdictions? So you're on top of who has jurisdiction to investigate it. Examples of Commonwealth crimes, I'm not going to go through these word for word, but basically anything to do with aircraft, airport and aviation crimes, drug smuggling, importation or exportation, cybercrime committed against Commonwealth government departments or information systems of national significance. As you can see now, they've moved towards information systems of national significance, and they're now referring people to ACORN and the like in relation to cybercrime. So they're trying to move away from resources and having the resources to look at national significance. So again, that's why something like this course is very important, because when you look at it, 10, 15, $20 million worth of an attack on a company in relation to the ebook, you're looking at, to me, that could mean the closing down of the company and loss of jobs. So is that deemed national significance? Ashley Madison, we're going to list on the stock market in the US, 450 odd million, I believe, that they lost because they could not get their IPO to occur. And that cost them approximately, they believe, around $450 million. To me, that would be of national significance to some extent, but it all comes down to definition. So people smuggling, human trafficking, online child exploitation. So again, child abuse material, that is still ranked high within the AFP for investigation. Of course, terrorism, and hopefully we're going to have a cyber terrorism course later in the year. Which would be good here as a free short course. So keep watching your emails in relation to that. So there are an overview of what the AFP or a Commonwealth offence is and what they investigate. So the Commonwealth crimes which the AFP investigate, they carefully consider all reports of Commonwealth crimes. So therefore, you've got that legislation, that is a Commonwealth crime. We've looked at the legislation in, I think, week 2 or 3. It is a Commonwealth crime. However, they do not have the resources to investigate every reported crime. The AFP have to ensure they allocate resources to the crime which have the greatest impact on Australian society. So again, it's how you package it up and how you present it to them if they take it on. The AFP's priorities are published on their website in their case categorisation and prioritisation model, so the CCPM, and you can visit that at their website. So look up CCPM on the AFP website to review how they make their decisions. So again, that's why I like this course. You're learning how to package up something so professional that hopefully they will take it on. They do not do civil matters, and this includes breach of contract, faulty goods or services, and defamation. They do not investigate civil matters. And someone asked me, I think last week, in relation to that and said, oh, will the AFP investigate, if it falls over criminally, will they investigate civilly? And no, they will not. And no police agency does that either. All right, so the website suggests you refer cybercrime, including online fraud such as eBay and internet scams, to the Australian Cybercrime Online Reporting Network, ACORN. They've got a great website. We linked it, I think, in week 1. Film piracy, including DVDs, refer to the Australian Federation Against Copyright Theft via their website. Intellectual property, refer to IP Australia, right? .gov.au there for advice. And offensive content on the internet, you report it to ACMA, Australian Communications and Media Authority, via their website. So as you can see, these over time, since I served in the computer crime section, we have now shifted to these agencies taking more of ownership of these type of offences. And again, what you've done here, you haven't wasted any time in learning that whilst you think, okay, the AFP won't investigate, again, if you package up your material and just sit them down at a desk and say, well, here you go. This is what's happened to us. This is the material we have. This is what we're presenting to you within accordance with the DPP's guidelines. They should be considering it fairly favourably if you've got all the ducks lined up. So you've got to consider the charges. So once you believe a Commonwealth offence has been committed, review the applicable legislation. Get your in-house legal counsel to do that. All right, you should have in-house legal counsel, or your company should have a law firm that provides all of that for you. All right, make sure that you follow through with that to review. Has an offence actually been committed? And have your evidence of the common proofs, the time, the date of the offence, the place and the jurisdiction where it took place. Now that is very hard, as we've discussed in class here, with you've got your VPNs and Tor and everything else. It is very hard to look at where did the actual crime take place? Where is that suspect located? And this is the hardest thing for computer crime investigators, is where is the suspect? So it's the information you can attract, and that's why some companies will do the honey potting and try and encourage people to attack them even more so to try and get them to capture the data of where the suspect is. So have all the elements or the proofs of legislation been breached, and do you have evidence of this? So, has the legislation been breached, and do you have evidence of this? So prepare evidence now. So because they've got limited resources, as I've been reinforcing in here this evening, it is sometimes best to prepare a mini brief of evidence for them. And we'll go through that shortly with the DPP checklist that I'll put up on the screen. It's also a link in week 4. So you'll see it on the screen, and of course it's not in PowerPoint format, and I'll go through it fairly quickly to some extent, but you've got the link to just click on and read it. So you might have to prepare a mini brief, but make sure, again, I want to reinforce, do not compromise the evidence. You need to seek legal advice before undertaking such work. So it's a guide to show you how much work goes into preparing a case. Okay, you might need to call in forensic experts before anything happens to help you prepare a manual for the company to be able to act. So if you look at a company that you believe you would use should an incident occur to help you prepare this, you get the experts to come and help you prepare a manual. They'll probably have most of it there anyway, and you need to adjust it to your company's appetite. So it's best to look at what we're going through tonight with the link and talk to your digital forensic experts that you might be engaging in the future or have done in the past now. So if we go to the link, which we'll shortly, and we'll look at the brief preparation to assist your homework as well in wrapping up what you would do for this week's homework. And for the purpose of this course, dot point lists are fine, right? So don't have to go right through this with thousands of words for this week's homework. If you're focusing on the exam, I don't mind dot point format of how you would prepare this brief of evidence. So the homework is analyse information intelligence, and we'll go through this slowly, and I'll ask some questions at the end of this, and then we'll move on to the DPP guidelines. So you analyse information intelligence flow in the scenario and the reading materials, then consider the following. Identify which persons or occupations, is fine if no names, would you seek a witness statement from. So obviously yourself, as being the IT, Mr. John Daylight, right, you would obviously be thinking of preparing a statement yourself for the brief. What evidence would you package in the brief of evidence? For example, computer records, hard drives, mobile phone records, etc. Company phone records, if you own the phones. Now remember, if mobile phone records, you have to be the company's device, not the person's, because you have no right to their mobile phone records. So that's why I love companies that provide mobile phones, because you control the records. There's something to consider. BYOD opens a Pandora's box for people to have full control of their devices, whereas if you own the phone, you have full control of the records. What charges you would consider laying, and on whom would you lay those charges? Now, this is just hypothetical, because again, it's up to the DPP and the police, or up to the police to lay those charges. But for you to know what's required in the proofs of the offence and the common proofs, time, date, place, identity, jurisdiction, right, you want to be able to think of what charges. Now, some people have identified the Commonwealth legislation that applies to this, and that's great. And what is a similar offence overseas in the jurisdiction? So maybe you don't have to drill down, in Hong Kong or London or whatever, but if you can find that, you want to contribute that to the group, that is fantastic. So does the country overseas, if you've identified a suspect overseas, have a similar offence? Now remember, as I said, there's CSOs, there's CEOs doing this course. To me, I would be doing a detailed analysis of where I'm comfortable with doing, and adding that to the forum, just so your name can get noticed, and hopefully you're networking outside of your group as well. It's great to see some people have joined me on LinkedIn, which is fantastic, and that is good too, and hopefully you're all cross-joining each other as well within your group and beyond. All right, and look at the mutual assistance and extradition requests of what's involved, and post your analysis in the forums. Again, dot point form is fine. And some people will do it really early and do most of it, and just comment on theirs then. You don't have to, repeat it per se. You said, Mary, that is fantastic. I was looking at a very similar line of attack. You've covered all the key points. That's all you have to say. So again, any questions on the homework for this week and the exam before we move into the CDBP manual?
There's a few questions on some of the earlier content as well. First of all, let's just start with a quick anecdote from Gillian, who received a call from someone who said they'd cut off internet for non-payment. She essentially worked her way around it, and they just hung up. She notes that telephone scams are harder to get evidence from. Would you agree? Is there any
so what's
particular?
What's the actual question there again?
Would you agree that telephone scams are hard to get evidence from?
Oh, absolutely. With VoIP, with VoIP now in particular, you can pay, $6 a month or whatever, and get an American phone number from Skype and all this. There's that many different avenues to get overseas phone numbers and everything else. So yeah, they're very hard to identify who's at the other end. And that's always going to be the problem.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions as well from Richard. Just seeking clarification. Honeypotting, is that the same as entrapment?
Well, it depends who's doing it per se. Entrapment legislation is very American, so it's again who is doing the honeypotting. I'd have to look into that, but I know that entrapment is very much movie Hollywood style for Americans. So I'll take that as another question to answer in one of the discussion forums. In fact, if you want to put that up in the discussion forum, that's where I like the questions per se as well, the ones that we can't get through tonight, that I need to research a little bit more. Put that in discussion, and you'll see that I respond to that. So that'd be great.
Great. Also from Richard, downloading is a civil matter in Australia, not criminal, unless done at a commercial level. So I imagine that would have serious implications as to evidence gathering and who you can take it to.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, it comes back to the case prioritisation model. If you went into the AFP and said, this house is downloading 20 movies in breach of Commonwealth legislation, that any agency would have the resources to investigate that. Commercial purposes, look at the Kim.com case. So if you go through the Kim.com case, you'll see how many in the introduction week for pre-reading of the millions of dollars that they made. So yes, I would say criminal for commercial. And again, because law enforcement's not running with the odd person doing 10, 15, 20, 30 movies, or 100 movies even, I don't think, they've given up the organisations and they're going civilly. And if you read that movie that was recently, it's off the tip of my tongue, I forget it, but it's I think Dallas Cowboy, that's the one I think. They looked at just scaremongering in some sense of charging people thousands of dollars for just downloading one copy. So civilly seems to be the way to go if they've got the money, and that case is worth looking at because I think there were some outcomes that they fell over with their attempt to do that.
Okay. And just one last question from Stuart. Is the offence or jurisdiction where the suspect is or where the computer or network or comms links are?
Well, it's where the suspect is, where the offence took place. So where was the actual breach, right? So if the breach was here, is my understanding. If the breach is here, that's where the offence took place. Just because the person is overseas, and it's a bit like someone making a threatening phone call to kill the Prime Minister or whatever, and they're based in the United States and they're making the threat here. So from my understanding, it's where the offence is that is supposedly taking place.
Yeah, as Stuart says, it seems a bit of a grey area.
Well, it is a grey area, and I want to look at that. That's a good question, because it's a bit like shooting across the border from Melbourne, from Victoria into New South Wales. So you've got someone standing on the New South Wales side of the Murray River, and you've shot from this side to New South Wales, and he has died being hit by the bullet, and he has died in New South Wales. I would say that would be a New South Wales homicide, but that's where the offence is. He's died in that location. So if you've suffered data loss, right? If you've suffered data loss here, and that's a very good question, and it come from overseas, I would say we'd be looking at our legislation. Be just like that shooting across the river, the Murray River. But I'll take that and look at that in this week's discussion forum as well. And for those that asked a question last week in the blab in relation to, I'm still looking up for the treaty countries, if there's a list. I'm sure there is, and I'm just trying to track it down, the list for what countries are signatories to Australia swapping information, because there is a list as well. So I'm just still tracking that down. So keep looking at your discussion forums, and there's a couple of good answers there I can get up this week. All right, any other quick questions before I go to the DPP guide?
I think we'll move on. If you do have any questions that you would seek further clarification, just let me know and I'll ask them at the end.
All right, so I'm just going to blow this up. I'm going to put you at the back there, little box there. All right, so this link is in your week 4 notes, and we'll quickly go through that just in 5 minutes so we can have a quick break and then at 10 past start the blab. And we'll probably go through a bit of this in the blab as well if we can, because it'll be a short one tonight, being the last one. Have a look at this, and even though it's for the Commonwealth, as I said before, right, so it applies to all Commonwealth agencies, as you can see up here, and other than ACC and ASIC. So they'll have their own guidelines, and I think there's one student in here in relation to digital briefs of evidence and everything else. You know, forever and a day we've been talking about a digital brief whereby you don't have volumes of paperwork. It's just the jury have 12 computer screens, the judges have 12 computer screen, and you know the lawyers and everything else, and we work off what's on the screen. But today they're still paper-based, and just to know that a brief is basically a set of papers containing the allegation and reference to the relevant legislation, a narrative of the facts of the case, and the evidence obtained that proves the elements of the offence. Now, let me break this up just quickly. The allegation, so you've just got to have that XYZ on this date, at this location, did XYZ in breach of such and such legislation. The narrative of the facts is sometimes called the summary of facts or the statement of facts, right? So summary of facts or a statement of facts. And that is just a complete summary of what has taken place. So a summary of from go to woe of your scenario, and some people have done it really well and broken it down. And that is so that basically the prosecutor can get up and read that summary of facts to the court at the start of the proceedings. So there must be an orderly and manageable format so the prosecutor can easily and effectively understand the allegation, assess the evidence against the allegation, decide what charges that are being applied, identify what further evidence the investigation should attempt to obtain. So the police will prepare generally a brief of evidence and deliver that to the DPP. So the more you put together, the better you're going to have it. So Paul, and this is where you need to drill down on this, poorly put together briefs are much more difficult to understand and assess than well organised and thought out briefs. Some people have done phenomenal summaries here, identified offenders, identified what offences they may have committed, the jurisdiction that they're in, right? This is what preparation's all about, okay? So follow this guideline in minutiae and go through it as much as possible, and this will get you on the right format to having systems and processes in place at your workplace, all right? The following guidelines set out a standard format for a brief of evidence. It's designed to provide a general guidance, just like this is. They don't address every issue, right? If an investigator considers that strict application of the guidelines to a case or a type of case would produce an unintended result, you should discuss it with the DPP. You should discuss it with your forensic investigators, right? So keep in mind, this is pointing you to the forensic investigators that you're packaging it up for, unless you do get this to the AFP, all right, who will take it on. And they'll have their experts come in and prepare it based on these guidelines. They have done hundreds of these, and they will prepare it, right, for what they know that the AFP can hopefully get a successful prosecution with the DPP. So again, this is a guide. So again, look at this for short form briefs, right? And have a look at the definition of that. Again, this is just for you to know, not so much for the exam, it's for you to know just to what to put together, right? If there's co-offenders, there should be a brief for each defendant. So if we've got co-offenders in this matter, you should have a brief for each defendant, right? Electronic copy of Word documents in Excel spreadsheets, right? If you can have a floppy or compact disk, floppy, geez, it's been a while since I've written this, but it is the current format, floppy or compact disk, containing the copy of all Word documents, Excel, etc. All right. Pagination, again, it's how you set it up, right? In relation to witness statements, records of interviews, they should be paginated. But again, if the investigator is going to be putting this together per se when it gets down to putting the statements together, all right? Don't need to go about folders and all this. Electronic briefs, you can go through that in your own time. I just want to go through to a couple of key areas. All right, so witness contact list, all the witnesses, all the phone numbers, etc. The name of the investigator in the referral, this is a referral letter, so don't worry about that. just gives you an idea. The witness contact details. This is critical. The name, email address, work number, comments, right? This is for the prosecutor or for the investigator. So the investigators can follow them up. The date of birth of witnesses, that could be critical in case it's a child. Don't worry about the cover sheet because, again, it's for the agency, but you can see what they are preparing. So they're going to have the date of birth of the suspect, the sex, the address, everything else. Again, this is a guideline. Companies, if there are companies and you've got details of that, put all that in there. The statement of facts, this is what you need to try and prepare to help the investigators. And throughout this, you would prepare a summary as you're going along. That's why it's important to take notes, everything you do as you go along. So the statement of facts, you should add a chronology, right? So it's a chronology of the alleged facts of the offence, which is somebody has done in a few groups, and of the alleged facts that constitute the physical elements of the offence, right? The physical elements, right? The breach of the legislation, where it took place, when it took place, and things like that. The chronology should be factual and objective and cross-reference to witness statements. Tables, flowcharts, and other charts are often useful in complex matters. IT matters are complex, so take note of this. Preparing those charts for your forensic investigators is a fantastic lead in the right direction. All right, here we have you would do a witness list, and I would do this in a table format. The name of the witness, what they are proving, okay? So you're the IT manager or IT security manager, you're proving the attacks on the company. Where was the penetration? Where did it take place? How did it take place? And all of that. Your statement would be detailed. Exhibit witnesses will produce. So you list here what exhibits you will produce. Computer records, logbook entries, everything else, right? The folder that it's in, it might be a 5 or 6 folder brief and everything else. The exhibit list, you would have an exhibit number if you started labelling things. Again, your forensic investigators will guide you through that. A description of it. So you label it and then a description and how you obtain that. They might be your own in-house computer records. Mary or whatever her name was, Mary Ray, I think might have voluntarily thrown her hands up to you and said, I'm over him, he's an awful person, here's the laptop, and there you go. So voluntary surrender of that laptop, right? If that's how you obtained it, right? Description of it. A barcode or something on that, and that they will then take it off you, the investigators. Statements, again, you're only preparing the basics. If you were preparing everything, you would get affidavits off everybody, but you're not trained to do that. Just have the information ready for investigators. Know full well they're collecting all the witness statements or affidavits and all the exhibits. So again, this is an excellent guide. It's on the internet. It's just a guide, and it's there for you to use and refer to. And I think it's great to have this just so you can look more professional when you're referring stuff to your forensic investigators or the federal police if it's a major matter. So any questions on that before we go back to the last slide for Guy to wrap up while I get ready for the blab?
Yeah, just a couple. From Stuart again, we've got, he's wondering whether the exhibit list without a chain of custody would still be deemed valid.
That's up for the investigator. Obviously, the investigator will make the final call on the chain of custody. If there's a loophole, that's for them to discuss with obviously the person they're obtaining the evidence from and the DPP. So again, it's not the be all and end all. Don't forget, circumstantial evidence can also be admitted. All right, less weight is applied to it, but it can be still admitted. So don't give up because you haven't got a chain of custody. Let the investigator make that call.
Okay, and just a couple further questions from Richard. What about when something is legal in one country but not in another? For example, child porn anime in Japan is legal but not overseas. If someone in Australia, for example, is operating servers in Japan, where would that lie? Would that be legal?
Wow, I remember reading something on this, and that is another thing I'd have to. I'm just writing this down for the discussion forum. Pop that into the discussion forum if you don't mind, into the weekly one, the start. You're not week fours in the general discussion. Please pop that question in there because I have read about that where it is illegally, in one and not the other. Remember, for mutual assistance, we must have the offence being similar or of the same offence in both countries. So on the face of it, I would say, but I want to read up more on that, good question. On the face of it, I'd say we could not extradite or proceed if there's not similar offences.
Great. Okay, we'll put that in there. And lastly, a question from Robert. You've spoken a lot about systems and process for Commonwealth crime and liaising with the AFP and CDPP. Robert wonders, is the process for a state crime similar working from state to state police and the DPP?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the state OPP, which is the Office of Public Prosecutions in Victoria, they have brief guidelines too for state agencies to refer matters to them directly, and also for the Victoria Police to refer to. I think the way that more and more resources are being swallowed up by police agencies for other offences, and that there's not enough law enforcement on the ground, and because there's so many new offences in the digital age, that I think you need to look at what the OPP has as a brief preparation guideline. Again, how much better is you in place if you've got all these systems and processes in place and you go to the state agency to investigate a matter, and they have to look at it. And if they don't, at least you can go to an investigations company and say, here we go, this is what we've got, and let's run with that. So hopefully they can put it together for the police to take it on.
Yeah. All right, so we've got the exam slide up again, so we'll just quickly reiterate all of that, unless there's any further questions, but for now we'll just take them over to the blab. On the exam, there's some information on the IT Masters website as well, so just you'll have until 11:59 Australian Eastern Standard Time on the 19th of April to complete it. It's available from the 12th. Please note the local time is now UTC plus 10, not UTC plus 11 as the course page suggests. In any case, as Brad said, best not to leave it until the last minute in case of technical difficulties. You're required to post in each week's forum and complete each week's quiz before you can access the exam and earn your certification. Homework can be submitted until the 19th of April, but again, we recommend not leaving this until the last, as Brad mentioned, because you'll not be able to sit the exam without having completed the homework, and it could be a bit of a rush. The exam consists of 40 multiple choice questions, which you'll have 1 hour to complete. Please note that the exam can only be attempted once, unlike the other quizzes. Therefore, do not attempt the exam until you are certain you are ready, or about as ready as you're likely to get. A reminder email will be sent out, and if you have any technical difficulties, please email us at shortcourses@itmasters.edu.au as soon as possible. I've already posted that email on the chat page, so maybe copy that down. And for more information, you can read the How Do I Qualify for a Certificate link in the short course website. Once you've completed the course, we would really appreciate if you took a couple extra minutes to complete the course satisfaction survey quiz, the link for which is found at the bottom of the IT Masters course page. This quiz contains a few questions sort of related to the applying law to emerging cyber dangers free short course. Your answers will be reviewed at the conclusion of the short course by the IT Masters admin team once we've got all of the exams in and all of the marking done. as part of our improvement strategy. And your feedback is very valuable to that strategy, and any feedback you provide will help us make future courses better. I'd like to thank personally Brad for his insights and efforts. I found it very interesting. Do remember to follow him on Twitter. His handle is @BradleyWDeacon, as is his LinkedIn profile, Bradley W. Deacon. And sign up to his newsletter on Cyber Law News, found on the IT Masters course website. Lastly, for those of you who can't join us in the Blab shortly, I'd like to thank you all for joining us so far and enrolling. Wish you best of luck with your exams and hope to see you in future courses. Hope you've enjoyed it. For those of you who can join us, come on to the final Blab in a few minutes, but for now, thank you and best of luck.
All right, and thank you, Guy, and again, thank you everybody for participating here, and hope you got a good overview of that. When you see my final submission on the scenario and what I would have done in the situation, and you'll see that at the end of this weekend and to the end of next week as well. Just focus on the exam, but check back after you do the exam for my final review of the scenario. And you've all done extremely well by coming each week, but also the ones that are really contributing to the forums, they've blown me away. They've been really some great contributions. So thank you very much. I'll see you in the Blab.
Thanks, guys.